Dum 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 diddly dee dee dee. Here's another intro by Don because I haven't got one, and that rhymes because it's poetic justice. Anyway, guys, welcome back to the Identity Human podcast. My name is Don. I'm the regular host, but I try and make sure that I get other people in to have a less insular view. So tonight's guest is the one, the only Peter BigRed Ulafir, aka if he had an intro into a rugby field, he'd want to be caged up and carried on the field and then break the cage open to intimidate his opponents and banging his chest as he does it. Pete, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Don, thanks so much for having me. And I quite like that your intro song has adjusted to a Christmas tune.
Yeah, I kind of start
Did you do it on purpose?
No.
Well played.
I start with one tune, a beat, and then just see what comes out. So it's almost like what needs to come out will come at the right time.
It worked.
So yes, just as a reminder, if this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, we're just doing the process. So this is like episode 6. It's going to be unedited. There might be mistakes. It might not work perfectly, but that's how it's going to work. So
natural.
We want to make Identity Human, trying to track lots of different people and you get something out of it. So the value is, so tonight I said to Pete, do you want to be on the podcast? Well, I mean, yeah, he kind of thought it was the stream as the podcast. And I said, I'll ask you who you are, what are your biggest failures and everything. And he goes, if I'm honest, can I just talk about like not so deep stuff? And I was like, of course you can. That's the whole point of the podcast. Like it'll be interesting. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about
disconnecting using gaming, different forms of meditation, because I've learned so much about it recently with realizing, and this is going to sound weird, realizing how different people actually are. For such a long time, I've always assumed that people are similar, and we're not. There are people that are similar, but genuinely, people like different things. And I know that sounds like common sense, but when you actually think about it, the things that you like, other people might not like that. No. So when it comes to, I know, and now when it comes to meditation and breaking away, I mean, the word meditation is probably overused now, but we all do it in some format. The reason why I brought this up as well is because Chantel, my wife, she meditates when she runs because she is such a good, confident, comfortable runner. She can go for an hour and a half run or whatever, and she will come back so much more at peace. She would have worked things out in her head that she's going through. She'll have a little bit of like a plan for that weekend. She'll come back and she'll just want to chat. And it's funny, like my running experience is obviously very, very different to Chantel's run. And I find that mine is gaming. I used to be shy talking about it, and now everyone knows, and I will tell everybody and anyone, and I feel nothing saying that I game, and I game often. I game a lot. And it's my way of disconnecting from everything. Like I literally don't think about anything else. I don't think about food. I don't think about work. I'm completely bought in. I'll suddenly get over it and I'll stand up and it'll be like, sometimes I'll literally sigh, like a happy, relieved sigh. And I'm like, right, now I can carry on with other stuff. There is a bit of a balance though. Sometimes that I do find that I need to earn that gaming time. Else the guilt of not having been productive takes away from the time that I'm meditating. So that's something I'm working through at the moment. Is it's okay to game and disconnect to then get the energy back to then be productive. So I'm still trying to find that balance myself.
I like that you've put in that guilt afterwards. I think that's so important because like a lot of people, like there's some that just make me think sometimes you get on and play a game of League of Legends or even on ARAM, because sometimes I'll be like, flip, I just need 20 minutes. And I'll play an ARAM because it's like, it's mindless. It's like, I don't really care. It doesn't make results, no pressure. And I'll be like, yeah, that's good. I'm done. But then other times I'm like, when you've got to do stuff, but then you just want to play the game. And then you play the game and you get up and like, flip, I just wasted 20 minutes or an hour. And it's like, how do you differentiate between the two?
Exactly.
Because we go back to like meditating being something that you're just in the now. So you're not worried about thoughts racing and whatever comes to you, comes to you. So gaming has that ability because it allows you have to be in the now, especially with League of Legends. That's the one that we experience probably the most, is like your reaction time. You have to be watching things. Your brain is active the whole time, even though you're numbing yourself.
Sweating.
Yeah, you can sweat, that gamer sweat that we're trying to deal with in some of the clothes. But like, yeah, I think that's a good point. It's like, how do you avoid that guilt? And it's almost it's the intent behind the gaming. Does that make sense? Like
100%.
if you game to avoid and escape, you'll get the guilt. But if you game because you've had a hard day's work and you're like, now I just want to chill out, you don't get that guilt because your intention's different.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of hits?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it is definitely the way you approach your form of meditation. And it's so funny because I often have people often say like, oh, it's such a waste of time gaming. And then I ask them, like, do you like watch series? And like, yeah, we watch like a whole bunch of series per week. You know, they probably pack away 10 to 20 hours of series. But then they have that slightly judgy mentality when I pack away sort of 10 to 20 hours of gaming per week. And they're like, oh, but it's not even productive. I'm like, watching series is not productive either. Like, you need to realize that is your form of meditation. It is a modern form of meditation. Like, the ability to be able to go and sit down, close your eyes, and go into a Zen state, you know, old school mentality, is not easy these days to be able to properly disconnect. I practice often, just so that everyone knows. Like, I try and switch off. I try and get into a meditative state often, every day, just to be super, super clear. And like, I haven't found a way to quiet the mind just yet. So I'm working on it. But I also just get frustrated, and I can't sit comfortably, and there's a whole bunch of things. So like, it's okay to have different forms of meditation. Another one is going for long walks. So I've got a couple of friends at the gym that will walk to gym, even though it's easier to cycle or drive, all that sort of stuff. And that's their form of meditation. And those who are listening will start recognizing little patterns in their life. They're like, oh, actually, that's what I use to disconnect. That's how I re-energize.
So you think maybe like so what I've learned from Samson Arman in terms of leadership is like, it all comes down to definitions and understanding. And your definition of meditation is different to someone else's.
100%.
So my approach is to always like, all right, how do we simplify it into something that we can all agree on? And where my mind is going when you're talking about this is mindfulness. So meditation is a form of mindfulness. It's not like a practice of something specific. So you mentioned Chance's running. When I run, I get that I get so many ideas come to me because I'm like my focused on running and just clearing my mind. When I get into the ice bath, there's a different form of meditation because I'm breathing and I'm literally I'm visioning like a body scan and all that kind of stuff. And that's allowing me to like be present. Gaming is that. So like meditation, maybe like a simpler way to say it is, instead of taking on the biases that other people have told you, meditation is sitting cross-legged with your fingers together and focusing on your breath, is like, it's anywhere that allows you to be as still mentally as possible, where you're not thinking about the past or the future. You're just in the now.
100%.
Like flow.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of
research.
No, I was going to say a lot of old school meditation gurus, I guess, who will definitely have strong opinions against what we're saying. But I find that anything that resets you and allows you to mentally better yourself and take on whatever you have got going on in your life is the modern version of meditation. Like, especially with the whole like Gen Z, what generation are we on now? Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen ZY, Gen Z. Where like the instant gratification plays a part so much. It's like, we've got to adjust with how the world is adjusting.
I suppose, like, again, I also have learned to not think that the way we see it is right, and the way, say, like like the fixed generation, the 60s generation, the old school generation are wrong, because they may have inherited the purest form of meditation and just been unable to communicate the benefits of it. So you look back to, and then like go way back, and let's look at like Buddha and what he would say, and is like, it was the ability to clear the mind. and maybe the simplest thing.
There's actually someone's posted something there. Meditation is a practice of mindfulness. So exactly what we just said. That's nice. Or focusing the mind on a particular object, thought, or activity to train attention and awareness and achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm and stable state.
So now I would say that perhaps there's a different way to look at it. Is like maybe there's levels of meditation. So
100%.
The level of meditation that we are talking about, maybe in say the ice baths, running, and gaming, are a point where it allows you to be in the now.
Yeah.
You're not focusing on anything. You're just freeing yourself up. Whereas that, like, it's like performance meditation is maybe a better way to put it. It's like the ability to really be calm. Like, and I think you would have experienced this maybe once or twice intentionally, where you literally sat there and you don't have a thought. So you're able to like lose an hour, lose half an hour, but not going, I'm making all these decisions, I'm reacting, I'm checking what's going on in the game, but you're actually just sat there and you can hear your thoughts and you can release your thoughts, and that's allowing that like mental whiteboard to be cleared. And it's the same as like what we do in sleep. So like the levels of meditation is maybe that is like maybe one thing that need to address is like, how do you make your mind stop? Because gaming could also be an avoidance of that, because it allows you to feel in the now.
Yeah.
Because it occupies that future and past in a different room, but also doesn't allow that present to really deep dive. It just stops everything. So how do you then practice that? And I'd say like the habit stacking book's a good one to think about. Is like you start on 30 seconds and you scale it up. And that's if you want to. But I think some people find it very hard to sit down and just do nothing, especially like you say, in this day and age, it's a lot harder to do that.
Yeah, I mean, when I listen to, another reason why this came up is because my Audible, which is the book listening app, gave me a statistic today of my 2023 listening time, and it was 11 days and 15 hours worth of listening this year. I don't have any context about other people. I don't know how if that's good or not good as far as records go and stuff. But I mean, 11 days worth of listening to books is pretty good in a year, so I'm happy with that. And that I also feel really, really good and calm and able to take on whatever I have going on in my life once I'm finished with that. So yeah,
I like it. I think it's an important aspect to consider, because we're covering two topics here. We're covering meditation, mindfulness, which is really important, and then maybe perhaps gaming and different elements that come with it, because avid League of Legends player. So like when you come around, we revisit that and we play and we really bond and got some good memories.
Yeah.
But at what point is it that like tipping scale of when it becomes an avoidance of what you actually have to do, which ends up creating a critical mass of flip, I should have done that, and that guilt thing that you mentioned right at the beginning?
Yeah. So I suppose there is an element of like you trying to break away from what's real and have a little bit of a break and maybe not facing what you should be facing. So I guess it goes back to what you said. It's the intention of why you're gaming that day.
I suppose maybe another way to look at it is like, have you ever meditated and gone, flip, I'm addicted to meditating?
No.
Would you say that you could be addicted to gaming?
Yeah.
So like, if I said to you, PD, you can't play LOL for 6 months now, you'd have to put some serious thought behind that and like energy to not do it.
Yeah.
But if you look at someone that's been meditating for a while and they're just like, I'm going to take a break from that, they'd probably be able to do it relatively easy. And I wonder why that is. Because that's the dangers of, I suppose, gaming has that like addictive type of personality programming, the same way that gambling does.
Yeah, I mean, they literally have those catch tunes and all that sort of stuff. Like they did so much. They did this research about the sound. You know, in Call of Duty, when you shoot someone and it hits them, it makes that like.
Mr. Beast uses it in his things. Have you watched some of Mr. Beast's whenever they're throwing targets or something, it has that.
Oh
crosshair.
Yes, that little like that noise. So that's it releases the same endorphins or whatever the hormone is when you get a WhatsApp. What's that called?
Oh, really? Yeah, dopamine.
Dopamine. So it gives you a small dopamine hit, that noise, and also the noise of an iPhone coming out of its cover for the first time.
Yeah,
that releases dopamine as well. So you should listen to some of the research around like the noises and dopamine hit. So yeah, I'm probably getting a bit of a dopamine hit while I'm playing League of Legends as well. But I think I have the balance right in my life, and I think I use gaming for the right reasons.
Because I mean, let's give a bit of context here. You do work like 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're working 2 hours a week, avoiding work by gaming.
No.
You literally have you've earned it. Like you have to do your work, you have to do your programming, you have to get like all of your people together. You have to be emotionally up for it, and you actually have to, like, we can then maybe delve into like, this is how you perform. Like, this is the other side of performance is like, we would only ever see Pete maybe performing, but you'd never see what he does to prep himself to perform. So like getting up every day, making sure that he's planned, like he's got to think about 300 different relationships simultaneously in case he bumps into a member that he needs to remember some point about them to make them feel special so that they get a better experience. And that's like every single day. So he has to be at like peak mind as often as possible. And when we talk about consistency, I think he's a really good like example of this, because you'll know other place where you find out if you're being inconsistent more than when you're dealing with people, because everyone has their own interpretation. And if you meet someone on a bad day and you're having a bad day, that turns into something huge, as opposed to like if that was a system, you could have a bad day and the system wouldn't pick it up. They wouldn't care. So like you're in what I would call the epitome of having to be consistent and perform. And so how do you balance that? Because you have 70 hours of just physical work, plus the programming, plus everything goes in, plus the messaging, plus the client relations, and everything goes like like I've said to you over and over again, like it's a very impressive overall picture that I see. And the best thing is you're consistent with it. Now, what I do know is we do a lot of like, I wouldn't say inner work, like I know your I3, your personality test and everything, and I like, let's see how this actually plays out. And I talk about alignment and energy state. Like I think Pete is in a position where he is when he's working, and I'm putting my inverted comma fingers up here, it's actually feeding him energy because it's aligned with what he's meant to be doing, like the stuff that feeds him. But I think that there are other elements to consider, but I wouldn't be far off the mark in saying like, you love that stuff, and that's why you can do it for a lot longer than if I was to try and do the same thing.
That's why it's so important that, and sort of goes back to what we said earlier. You got to find what works for you. What works for me definitely is not going to work for everyone. Like Don said, like my hours are very different. My day starts at 4:30 a.m. So I've got my processes in place to make sure that I'm 100% BigRed by 5:30 by the time I'm coaching. And then my gaming could be someone else's long walk, could be someone else's someone might just lie down and just meditate and be really, really good at it. So yeah, it's interesting. I like the fact that this started out with meditation, but it's actually gotten to a stage now where it's sort of challenging meditation a little bit as well.
Yeah.
By saying, don't use gaming to escape reality and not take ownership of your life. Make sure you're using it for the right reason. And whatever your form of meditation is, the same thing. Like if it's series, if it's going for long walks, don't avoid stuff. Make sure you're still using that to then be functional and productive.
It's the intention behind it.
Yeah. And also like, what is meditation? Is it clearing the mind, or is it addressing stuff that's going on in your life, or is it disconnecting for a little bit so that you can have this sort of clear thought process to be able to dismantle stuff that is quite built up and that you need to move forward through? I like this.
Yeah. I mean, this has flowed.
Yeah.
This very much flowed. So I suppose we're coming to 19 minutes and we could go on and on. But I want to get Pete back on this over and over again.
Well, I actually want to go. I want to go back and genuinely. I know, like you said, this podcast is about being human. I want to challenge myself and make sure that I'm using it for the right reasons. My life is productive. And I do feel good, and I've tried different forms of meditation. Like I mentioned, we do like cool downs at the end of each class where everyone lies down and I take people through a bit of like literally 30 seconds to 1 minute of mindfulness every class. And I leave enough room for interpretation for everyone to sprinkle their own flavor onto it. So
I think, like, just to add on to that, I've listened to a book called Recapture the Rapture, and it's a very interesting book. It's like
Recapture
a 12-hour listen. Recapture the Rapture. They talk about the world being quite rapturous at the moment. It's very interesting. But there's a chapter in it where they talk about like your physiological or your biological drivers and your mental drivers and placebos and how they all work and everything like that. And it's fascinating because they're like biological drivers will always overtake the mental drivers. And being aware of them means that you can kind of pair the two rather than just being one or the other. That's why like positive thinking doesn't just work on its own. There's got to be action behind it to make sure that it reinforces the biological drivers behind that positive thinking. So often people think it doesn't work because I thought positive and I still felt that way. And it's like because you didn't pair the two. But the biological drivers, where my point I'm coming to in terms of meditation, like we've got to try and understand the biological drivers behind meditation, because it will then help us differentiate if gaming is actually becoming addictive or not. Because what do I mean by that? So when you meditate, is that increasing your dopamine or decreasing it and actually bringing you to a calm state? Versus when you're gaming and you think you're meditating, if it's increasing your dopamine hit, then it's making you feel happy, making you feel like you've been in the moment, but actually it's not bringing you into a calmer state. It's just bringing you into a more energized state.
Because I definitely feel like hyper productive after gaming. Like I get up and I'm like, right, let's go.
Yeah. And so maybe it's a different angle. It's like they often say exercise before you work because you've released that dopamine and it gets you buzzing. So actually maybe using gaming as in context of meditation isn't the right way because it might lead you down the wrong path. Whereas actually it's like using gaming as like a form of helping boost your productivity. But then you have to have the discipline of going, it's one game and then I'm starting. It's 2 games and then I'm buzzing. And seeing how you use that as like a warm-up.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's then having a good understanding of the biological drivers means you put it to best use to fit your mental drivers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously I'm going off track here and these are new ideas, but like the more you understand, the better you can get out of yourself, the better you can be for yourself, and the better the results are, and the less you're reflecting and trying to make lots of changes. So it's like going, if you're high performing, if you're doing this and you want to make those changes, how are you identifying which is escapism, which is addictive, which is like your booster, which can make you more productive, and which is genuinely mindfulness? And how do we differentiate the two so you don't just keep going back to the one that makes you feel the best, but the intention behind them all is you intentionally go to gaming to be more productive, but you intentionally have a hot bath because you know that that's going to calm you down. It's not going to boost your dopamine in any way. Yeah. And so it's not like letting your chimp say gaming is really good for me because it calms me down and believing it, because it's actually the gaming actually makes me feel really good because it makes me want to do more. And so you intent behind that.
And like, do I even want to be calm?
And there's another
I
thing.
work in like Don said earlier, I work in my perfect job. Like what I do is what I was truly born to do. I absolutely love what I do. So, my experience of gaming and meditation might be different to others because I don't want to disconnect always. Like I feel I'm happy with what I'm doing. So having a calm mind, is it massively impactful for someone like me?
And also the escape, like I wouldn't say that you do it to escape.
No.
Because I think that's another key intention, like an underlying intention you might not be aware of, is if you start to game to escape something, then gaming can become addictive because it makes you feel better than when you are doing things outside of gaming.
Yeah.
And so you avoid the things outside of gaming because they don't make you feel as good as you do when you game. Does that make sense?
It does, but I feel even better when I'm at work than when I game.
Yeah, and that's why context is key. It's like, this is your story, which is completely different to if I had someone else that goes, actually, Flip, this conversation has made me realize that I game because I feel really good when I game and not so much when I don't game. And now I see why it's addictive, not meditative.
This is definitely part 1.
Yes. Yeah.
So take this as this started out as something completely different to what it is now. We now need to do some research, which I'm happy with.
Yeah. All right. And that's taking us to 25 minutes. So the reason I keep it to between 20 and 30 is because we can go on and on. But the point is, we've gotten to the point now as listeners, you're probably going to be reaching your point of I've got other stuff to do. So we appreciate your 25 minutes that you've given us of your life, your brain, your focus. We hope we've added some value.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of the meditation escapism podcast.
Thought-provoking, just, this is interesting. Yes. But yeah, so thank you very much from myself and BigRed. We thoroughly enjoy. Yes, that was a high five.
That was a high five.
Nice. Ipso facto jinxo. And like I probably try and remember how to sign off the same every time, because consistency is key. It'll be really good to get you to join the journey with us as we go to develop, so that you remember how episode 1 is compared to episode 100 when we get there, and to recognize that the world celebrates outcomes, not the processes, and you're currently involved in the process. So don't judge it for where it is now. Be excited for where it's going to be. And the last philosophy to stick to is Ubuntu. We are who we are through others. But I would also say that doesn't mean give away your bricks. So focus on yourself. Be the best that you can be for you. And when you're the best that you can be for you, you give a better version of yourself, mirror neurons in other people, allow them to be the best versions of themselves. Then they start to lift you up. And ipso facto, you create a critical mass of everyone being good for everyone, because you started with yourself, if that makes sense. Right. This is us signing off. Thank you very, very, very much. We appreciate you all and very grateful for you. Bye.
Bye.